hello, and welcome to another episode of The Modern Nerd. I am Sir Slice13.
It's merchandise.
BJC. Well, we're using
We
our
are,
Twitch names now. We're all using Twitch names now today.
we
What?
can be. We are, as always, massive nerds. So we've got a kind of a fun one that really, it turns out it's going to be kind of a walk down memory lane for most of us, but we're going to do a two-parter here. We're going to discuss The Boys. I know we're like a week late, but we're all catching up and life happens, so it's fine. We're going to discuss the last couple episodes of The Boys, and then we're going to get into non-Marvel and DC comic to screen adaptations. So we've got a bunch that we know of, and we'll list some off, but we're really only going to try and talk about a handful of these, and really only like two or three are really going to get a lot of attention that we both really all three of us kind of really agree on are going to be at the upper echelon of these types of movies. So with that being said, in this particular case, Smirch over here, Smirch and Dice, that's weird, Dan, was the last one to see The Boys. He caught up. He watched them the other day. So I'm
Watched
gonna let you take
three
the
in a
floor.
row last night.
So you watched
Uh,
Herogasm last night
And
too.
I want you.
I watched, yeah.
That episode was.
That was something.
It was the books, the comics were
Way longer.
way more intense.
Yeah.
Like
Ooh, Jesus.
way more. Oh, all of The Boys comic books were like everything you're seeing times 10, but like different. So this is kind of
I haven't seen stuff like this on screen, and I don't even know the last time I do, because it kind of feels like whenever you see this kind of over the top gore or in vulgarity and gross shit, it's tied to a movie that's not necessarily good, or a show that's just kind of like doing this for shock value. I can't think of a real other time when I saw a movie or
I could
show
think of
that
two.
was of this quality, that was this good with this
That's
amount
very
of
close to this kind of
All right.
vulgarity.
Hit me,
curious.
please tell me.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Kill
We
Bill
got-
and also the Django Unchained. It has that kind of shock value
Yeah,
of like excessive
yeah.
violence. Not
Okay.
to the
I-
gore
I think-
factor, but
Kill Bill
Tarantino.
more is
it's very
is, like,
stylized. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
Tarantino, it's almost like Kill Bill has that like stylized Japanese samurai like overspraying of blood and decapitation type shit, which is very, that's the style of film they made, and that's the genre that he tried to make that film into. Is like
That's true.
and then
Yeah, it's like
also the
Django
Django
is
is
closer.
like a very visceral, like dude is just straight up just killing people left and right. Like people are
Yeah.
dropping like flies in that movie, almost to the point where like after a while, at first you're like, okay, you just killed a guy, and then like after a while, you're just like, okay, you're a little bit numb into it halfway into the movie. You're like, I guess this is like, it's almost comical to a certain extent because some of the way that people get hurt or die in that movie is kind of funny, and you kind of are obviously you're rooting for Jamie Foxx and Django and.
And that's
Schultz,
a real
but-
testament to this show. Every time something happens like that, with the amount of gore, I'm kind of like, oh, like it lands, like, and
Yeah,
it
you're
still
like, holy
has,
fucking shit, it
yeah.
hurts.
it still has weight, and that's a hard thing to do, especially when they're. But I mean, it's because these actors are giving fantastic performances in between each scene, and you're sucked in, and you feel the monumental decisions, and you feel the real. I mean, not really. It feels like legit. Like it feels like these are people, and this is something happening, and that's in a show like this with all this crazy shit happening. That is a huge compliment.
Yeah, they did a good job of grounding this chaotic show.
Yeah, they
Not
did.
and then not peppered in. The meat and potatoes of this are the characters and the acting and the writing and the character developments and their arcs, and they have. I feel like, I don't know if it's just they're maintaining the same amount of quality, or if it's getting better. Every single person's story I was in on. Granted, there's things I wish played out differently, but I put a lot on endings, and that's my thing.
Tell us what you liked and how you liked what storylines you liked and what ones you wanted to change. Because I'm still a little fuzzy on the last couple three. I remember them, but it was like a week ago.
I mean, Kimiko's storyline is great. I love it's like not
Yep.
front and center, and just her kind of like thinking that this was her curse, these powers, and then she didn't have it, and then she wanted them back, but not because she wanted them back because she wanted to have them because she wanted to protect people and she wanted to be her decision. I loved that.
Good.
What's her beau's name?
Frenchie.
What's Frenchie? I mean, he's not even my favorite, but he still is like doing a really good job, and the character has been through a lot, and I'm rooting for him. And there's it's very clear we have. I don't even know how many more seasons to go, but there's a lot of loose ends going into the end of this season. Almost all loose ends. There wasn't a single thing tied up at all
Yeah,
by the end of this
you kind
season.
of went
Matter
back
of
to
fact,
where you started. It feels like we
right.
just went back to exactly the
One
same.
of my small complaints is that they all went into that building, and the only difference coming out was Maeve doesn't have her powers anymore and has an eye patch. And I guess Soldier Boy's back on ice. That to me, I didn't love it. But it's because there are more seasons and more of this show coming, and there's more players, and
Stalemate.
I love that.
Was it
Yeah,
Jensen Ackles? Is that who it was, or was it the other one?
great
He-
It
job by
ended in
him.
a stalemate.
Oh my
Everything just kind of
God.
reset. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just reset to the same stakes that
Totally.
it was a few seasons ago.
And I think that I would have liked something to give there. Anything really. But
Kill
in
someone.
the yeah,
Bill?
if I were a
They
gambling
killed
man,
they killed a lot of people this
Okay.
season.
Well,
Here's
okay,
my-
fair. They killed a bunch of people, but
here's my big complaint. Here's my standard Smirch complaint. What the fuck? Black Noir deserved better. What was that build up with him in there?
Yeah.
Us rooting for him, going in there, and the most anticlimactic death in the series. I've been waiting for this dude to jump in. I thought maybe he would unmask and he would be someone else this whole time.
That's what I was thinking
It was building up, building up. He was there when Soldier Boy was there. And then just it's like that was the last thing they needed to do for the day before they like sent it off to production, and then I said, it's just. It only hurts that much more because of the buildup. Why did they do that then? What was the point? And even more so, the fact that this show it has more or less treated pretty much any moment like this with a lot of respect. And this to me is the first real time where I'm kind of like, you guys have set a strong standard and held through pretty much every time except for this. What was that? I don't understand that at all. That if there was a moment or some sort of like thing I was supposed to catch, I missed it because that was just completely that was the definition of like my inclination is like, did the actor like want out and they were salty so they gave him a shitty death or something like they have in so many other shows before? I was very confused by that. That being said, I only am that much upset about it because of how great this show is and how well everything else is done. I think that because of that, this moment felt that much more like a fist through the chest. That's about it though. Otherwise, amazing job. I wished for more of an ending, but it's clear we're gonna get more seasons of The Boys because The Boys is fucking good, and I'm excited for
and
more.
they've got a spin-off animated show that they're doing.
Yeah, I saw one episode of that.
I didn't watch it. I'm probably not gonna. Whatever. I'm all here for Anthony Starr. I mean, that guy
Oh my
is
god, dude.
insane. I will say this, like I really, you've got we've talked about over these past few episodes about these villains that you just hate. Like you just hate, like the guy from Stranger Things, the cheerleader's boyfriend. Like you just are like, I hope you die like gloriously. And it was, somewhat less than glorious, I swear to God. And um and Dan and I, if you go back and watch or listen to the one where we talk about villains, like the way you make the way you make a villain really will make the show, and they made this guy so hateable, but yet like so powerful and in control. It's terrifying. obviously they weren't gonna kill him. I was really hoping they would, and just because like it needs to be satisfying when it happens. I never finished the actual comic series, so I don't know how it ends. So I'm in new territory right now. But like, like you want these people to die, especially as you get to know Soldier Boy. At first, you're like, oh, he's just kind of an asshole. No, he's a right piece of shit, and like he should die as well, and like the one that I really want to see coming, and I want it to be just the most glorious death. Not glorious, but like I want it to just be like oh yeah, kill him, yeah, like is the Deep. Like just to get what
Please. Oh
He's
my
never
god.
going to
oh
get his.
they will kill that character. They have to.
They're never.
Yeah.
They
It's
have
just to
to,
show
like,
how bad the world is and how slimy people find a way to get
I
away.
know, but
Always.
like
Nice
it's
word.
true, but I think it would be so satisfying to watch that motherfucker
Those
die.
people
But
always get away.
that being said, you did have a few things that kind of you can kind of see where it's going. They've shaped the future seasons, especially with like a lot of it is around like it looks like like Mother's Milk and obviously Butcher and um MM's family, especially when you see the ending where obviously Butcher's been a shit guy throughout the whole thing, and he's starting to kind of come around a little bit, but still kind of being an asshole. It's this beautiful balance that Carl Urban does and the writers do with being able to make him be like an asshole, but you're rooting for him, and you're like, oh, why I hate you, but like you're like oof. It's such a complicated line to walk, but you see him be a piece of shit to Ryan, Homelander's biological son, and it ends up where Ryan is in the hands of Homelander, and he chooses to go be with Homelander, and you get that last scene where he calls in his son into the crowd, and you kind of get what you got in season 3 in his weird tripped out vision. Homelander like turns on the crowd in season 3 and blasts them all to death because he just is like, fuck all of this shit. And in this one, some guy throws something, yells fascist or whatever, and it hits Ryan, and you just see Homelander turn, just laser eye this motherfucker and blow him up. And it was just like, again, it was one of those moments like, oh my god, did they just fucking do that? Like he did that in front of everybody. And it pans to what you see is MM's kid's stepfather, and he's like, yeah, and he starts cheering. You're like, oh my god, this racist piece of shit, like this guy's horrible. And then it pans back to Ryan, who gets this really slow grin on his face, and you're like, oh no, this
There
is
it
just
is.
another
There it is.
evil little shit that's going to be brought onto the world. So
I don't think they can do like we can't kill kids on screen. I don't think we can do that yet. Like murder of a kid.
give it time. I'm sure everything will be fine. Every murder will be fine
He's
on
got to
screen.
turn face or something, or they're gonna find a reason to like.
Kids
I
have
don't
died
know.
on screen.
Yeah, but
Bees killed someone on screen in 1987. Like whatever. Macaulay
guess maybe
Culkin
you're
has
right.
died several times. You know what I mean?
I think I'm more in video games.
So The
Yeah.
Boys was one of the best things on television this year, in my opinion, so far. I can't speak to The Expanse. I haven't watched it. But of the things we've reviewed, still my favorite for 2022 is The Boys. Shout out to like all the Marvel shows that I've loved up and all the other things that I've talked about, but to me, The Boys just is a prime example, no pun intended, prime, of just good storytelling, amazing acting, a cast and crew that really just trust each other to do all the right things and move the story forward, and it works so well. George?
Yeah, I agree with what both of you said. A lot of the stuff, especially, I really think this is the season that like MN like stole the season. Like he carried the season, I think, in a way that the show has never asked him to do. Like suddenly his role became big. Like I mean, like there's so many storylines to follow, but I would say his storyline became a huge focal point because this is a character that we've been curious about for a while, and they really just were like, okay, Like, this is his season. Like, you're gonna find out everything about this guy and what makes him tick. And we got to see that a lot, especially with Huey, because he was sort of like the main character to begin with, like, that steps into this world. So it's very easy to follow, and you needed him, like, story wise, to follow him that way, like, yeah, to introduce you to this world, right? So it's like that he's like the Harry Potter character, kind of, in a way. He's stepping into this world of superheroes and stuff. So it's nice to see it. Story wise, you had to know more about him and watch his story from his point of view. But like a lot of the other characters, like Frenchie and MM, obviously, they all like came prepackaged sort of with Butcher, and seemed more like extension characters of Butcher than anything else, because they were already part of his team, right? And this is the season that both those characters really got to know and understand them more, especially MM. Like, Frenchie's still a big question mark. There's so many questions about who he is and his background, but right, like MM, like Mother's Milk, you like really, really, really got to see, like, this is what makes him tick. This is the reason why he is the way he is, and he did a fantastic job. Like, yeah, and also the fact that like you knew kind of from the beginning that something was going to happen with the seeds planted with his the new stepfather for his daughter or whatever, and you kind of felt like something interesting was going to happen. Like, not interesting, but I didn't know how that was going to come back around, but I'm glad that they did tie it off at the end, that he was the first person to cheer when Homelander did that. That was the real payoff.
I liked when he hit him, when MM decked him.
That was funny.
That was good. I liked that.
Yeah, but it's pulled away immediately by the look in his daughter's face, though. For me, very little satisfaction there, unfortunately. But
it was a great moment. Like, both of them. Like, it's
true.
It
but
moved.
You're seeing it. You're seeing it through his eyes in that moment, and that whole scene, and that we did, and that was well done on their part.
Yeah. And then finally, I guess I would say, what makes the show so good is that, like, not even the wow factor, because there is so much crazy wow factor when we're talking about how many things are shocking and all, and they still continue to do that. But I think what makes it so good is that the show's gotten really good at just putting a mirror up to, like, it's like going into the fun house with, like, the reality that we're living in America, right? And it's slightly warped and a little bit exaggerated, but like, it's still a mirror into, like, the reflection of what it's like to be American, to live in this society, and maybe just a human being living on this planet, right? It allows, science fiction has that great advantage of being able to, like, critique what's going on in the world without it, quote unquote, being taken seriously, because you're like, it's science fiction, or it's like comic book movie, or it's it's a fantasy movie, but it has a great way of being able to play out and put a mirror up to, like, our world and our society, and be able to put it on screen. And this show hides it very well, in my opinion, but sometimes it's like not very shy about making it very obvious.
Sometimes the deepest
hides it well in the sense that it's woven in there, right? Like, it's still part of the story. It's part of the story, but like, the characters are so overtly political to a certain extent, like that it's obvious, right? Like, I don't know.
Right. That's what I love about the show. Yeah, I was surprised that moment with the deep. I saw exactly they were going with that, and I'm very surprised they went with the exact same song that Gal Gadot did. I was like, oh shit, that's
Pepsi commercial, like,
the Pepsi commercial. That was so good.
That's such a big burn. You're just like, oof. You're going after somebody from the Kardashian empire, like.
Yeah, fuck him, dude.
Yeah, see, and they are so unapologetic about it, right? And the funny thing is, it's not done like, it's like, there's the problem with shows, whatever kind of drama, not even in science fiction, but any type of drama that you have, where, like, you don't want to come off too preachy. Or, like, what I'm saying? You're, like, not trying to do that because people are not trying to watch for entertainment reasons, right? So you can't make it, like, gratuitously political or gratuitously, sorry, like too much of a complaint about, like, what's a man in society or whatever. There needs to be a level of escapism, and then to be able to weave all those things that they're trying to weave into the part of the story seamlessly is what makes the show great. Do you know what I'm saying? There obviously there is a strong political message there, but it's so well woven as part of the story that like it doesn't feel extra. It doesn't feel out of place. It feels like it should be
forced.
there. Yeah, it's not forced at all. It feels like it should be there because of course they made a Kendall Jenner style Pepsi commercial. Like of course they did, because that's what people do, and that's you've seen that. Like the things that he is, like the way he talks, Homelander talks. Of course, there's a guy who is in politics who talks like that and who acts like that without repercussions because people just want to cheer him on because it allows them to be the worst of themselves, you know, and that's
familiar.
Yeah, it's that.
I can't
but
quite
like,
put my finger on
that's
it.
why it's so good. Is because it feels so familiar, yet it's in a totally different world.
Which I still think is absolutely hilarious that all these people got so outraged by like Homelander and all this shit. It's
like, have you been watching this show?
Are you idiots? Like,
you
you are idiots, obviously.
But yeah, that's why I enjoy the show. It might not be like it might not be my favorite show of like, you know, of all time or this season or this year or whatever, but I certainly did enjoy it. It's probably one of the top few.
It's hard to think of something else that really evokes this much emotion and like you're attached to every character, every one of them, and that's really hard to do in this large of an ensemble cast. Like even the supers, like it's you know it's woven, like you were just saying, it's woven all together so well.
I love to hate him.
It's so like even A-Train, who I like kind of is like admittedly kind of a shitty guy, but like I'm kind of rooting for him. Same thing with Maeve. Maeve has done some really shit things. I'm happy her story ended the way it did. She got her happy ending because I feel like she really did try her best to redeem all the terrible shit that she's done or let happen. Not necessarily her personally doing terrible shit, but she's just stood by, you know, and let terrible shit happen. You know, and that means she's culpable to a certain extent, and she obviously feels guilty. So I'm glad that she's had her story and that she had kind of sort of redeemed herself.
Definitely. I like that this show exists. It feels like, I know it's a comic first, but it feels like one of those shows where it's just like some guy was just back. It's like, man, when I write a show, I'm gonna do this. And there'll be a dude with a gigantic penis that like wraps around people and fucks them up, like, and no one can tell me no. And here he is living his dream, seeing it on screen. I don't mean that specifically, but just like things that we don't see normally. And I love that this show exists, and I hope that more writers take note at how successful you can be with all this outlandishness and still be good. That's funny. That's what I think.
So, speaking of successful comic book things, obviously there's Marvel, MCU, and DC, Batman, and like some Superman stuff has been good throughout the years, some is not. But I think The Boys, and segue, is a great way to show that you can pull from something that isn't just Marvel or DC and get some quality content. Everyone thinks comic books, superheroes, they think Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, Captain America, you know, they think the big two, and there are so many more. Having myself been entrenched in this universe of comics since I was like 10, I can tell you that there's ups and downs, highs and lows. This was The Boys was put out originally by Wildstorm and then Dynamite, and Dynamite has had some hits and misses, a lot of like acquired IPs. Image Comics has been like a huge source of really cool, really awesome stuff. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of the things that we've seen that we liked that were not DC or Marvel. Now, before we kind of get into it, I'm gonna go into the one. I'm doing it. I'm stealing the thunder from Mr. GJC here. He's gonna bring up something, and it is a DC product, but I don't care. I am going to say it was no, I do care. I'm sorry, I do care.
But don't care.
You were just whining about breaking the rules like a minute ago, and here you are.
Care.
All right. So George wants to talk about Watchmen because it was a very influential moment in cinema. Love it or hate it for what it was, It was a different kind of comic book movie, and it wasn't, your typical uh Marvel or DC comic book. I would like to point out, however, Exhibit A, in that there is a DC logo on the original publication from 1986. So it is a DC comic book.
Lazy wears such a mixed bag right now. What are you trying to prove right now exactly?
I am proving that George was like, I don't care that it's DC.
I'm just gonna give it an honorable
And
mention.
yet, here you are.
I'm bringing it up so he doesn't. That's what I'm doing.
He admitted that. He admitted that, Spurge. It's okay.
I did.
All right, I'm very confused, but okay.
Yeah, that's fine. But it was a cool moment, I think, in cinema and obviously in comic books. For what it was, it was received very mixed bag for the time. Do we remember when this movie came out? 2009. I think that sounds right.
Sure. I don't know. Maybe earlier than that, actually.
It was like it was right around like Dark Knight times. So it was pre Iron Man. I think it was still one of the pre Iron Man movies.
Iron Man's 2008, so then it had to have been
You're right.
06, 07.
But it was right around the beginning of the superhero boom, and it was cool to see to come onto screen. But Zack Snyder's not a good director, so he's got one thing and he does that very slowly, and that's what this movie was. They did some cool stuff.
Parts of this movie. There's a lot of great stuff
Oh, yeah.
in this movie, but there's a lot of not so great stuff.
Yeah, which is weird because like if you were to like dissect this movie and take it apart and leave the good stuff, you wouldn't have a cohesive movie. And if you take apart the bad, like you can't. I feel like if without
cohesive
everything,
is the movie anyway,
I mean, without everything in it, I don't think it works. So it's like, then why did you do it if it's not great? Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's a waste.
It's a rough movie to do. It's a long
ass movie. It's a good movie, but it's a long movie.
It's funny because Doomsday Clock, which is the sequel, is longer by like not a small amount. It looks a bigger. It looks the same, but it is the part that ties them all together, which I talked about a few weeks ago.
And he just wanted to show off his comic book collection, dude. It's okay.
I did. That's only a small part of it.
It's fine.
Next time I get a chance, I'll go podcast like 2 years ago trying to talk about comic books. This is the first moment we've had that we're talking about comic books.
It's to make up for touching his action figures.
What are comic books? I don't.
Nobody knows. And a funny page. Why
do you take action figures out of the case if you don't want to play with them?
I swear to God. Watch us play. We'll probably get into this more if you watch us all play Stardew Valley on right here on GJC's Twitch channel, GJC327. So there's a lot of movies that are not Marvel and DC, and some good, some bad. May I read from this list? Just name them off, and then we'll pick them apart. So kind of actually,
you don't have to name them all. The ones that's a long.
So there's like movies like 300 and Hellboy, Kingsman, The Mask, some weird ones like Oblivion with the Tom Cruise movie. It was based off of a comic book. There's the obvious ones like Sin City, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Walking Dead, and all these different ones. But The Mask. So I mean, there's tons of movies that people didn't know were based on comic books. A History to Violence has nominations in the Academy Awards.
I didn't know that.
And it was a graphic novel originally, and it was the movies is intense and very great performances throughout it.
One of his best performances.
It really is, and like I've seen it a couple times. It's kind of hard to watch. I think there's some trigger scenes. So if anybody's gonna go pull a bunch of stuff off of this list and watch them, hashtag trigger warning.
There's
but these are all, some of these are great movies, some of these are not worth the watch. Like don't go back and watch Tank Girl from '95. I'll watch it because I watched it growing up, but like I'm not gonna say go watch this masterpiece with Ice-T as some weird dog mutant. Like it's not.
I forgot he
worth watching. I loved Spawn as a kid because it was crazy action. Oh my god, not a good movie. Like
John Leguizamo as the Eviscerator, like that was fun. I love John
Fun.
Leguizamo. I was just telling my wife
I
about it
love
the other
John
day how much
Leguizamo.
I love John Leguizamo. His
Yeah.
He's good.
stand up. It's like just like storytelling. It's so
Pretty
good.
much.
I love everything about him. Tu
Me
Wong
too.
Fu. I mean, come on. You know, like
He did a
you
great
can go no
job in
wrong.
Romeo and Juliet, so it just goes to
Oh.
show his wide fucking range as an actor. He can even do
So good.
Shakespearean acting. Like, come on.
So good. He was in
Way
a movie
before any
called
of this
Empire.
Bruno hype, all right? He was already a
Right.
star among.
He can do Disney. He can do a movie called like you remember Spun? Did everybody see Spun? It was like along the
This
lines
is
of
not even his first
Requiem for
Disney
a
film.
Dream.
His second
It's
one was
fucked up.
what's it called? His first one was was Atlantis, I think.
Was he in that?
Yes, he was.
I haven't seen it in a long time.
Yes.
So-
I love John Leguizamo too.
We will.
John Leguizamo podcast over here.
There's a few, right? That's our next topic. Tune in. We're gonna break down every John Leguizamo movie ever made.
Oh, let's do it.
Pest.
Talk about Chef.
Yeah. See, like the guy can do anything.
Yeah, I know. Okay,
Sorry,
here we
you're
go.
killing me. Damn it. Okay, I've got a couple of honorable mentions before we get to our top ones. I mean, I said Tank Girl, which I always wanted to say. I think things like The Rocketeer might be
Yeah, I
worth
was
a
thinking that too.
rewatch. Back in the day, that was a fun little romp.
It was on
through
TV
his-
all the time, and I
The
watched it
Phantom.
every single time it was on TV. I loved it.
If you want classic Billy Zane, go watch was it The Phantom? Isn't that what it was called?
Oh my God, yeah, just Phantom.
no.
Yeah.
Phantom. It's just
See Billy Zane in a purple costume ride a horse. It's not a good movie.
Fantastic.
No. What was the
not a
name
good
of our
movie.
favorite Billy Zane movie?
Oh, nobody knows, but it's got that look on
Phantom.
the back of it, where he's the picture on the back of the book.
Oh, doesn't matter.
It was like
doesn't.
Scorpion King 10 or some shit like that. I don't know.
Billy Zane.
We need to find
Yeah.
this picture.
I know, dude.
We'll find it. I'll put it if you're tuning in on
Some of
Sunday.
my life.
The picture in the corner is Billy Zane. I will post that picture. I will edit that in, and it will be amazing.
Oh my God.
Let me see if
Oh,
I can
yeah.
find it right now.
Oh my God.
Do it. Find it and put it up there.
Oh my God.
Men in Black was based off of a comic series.
I didn't know
so-
that.
Like the first one was hilarious and fun and
I enjoy
good
Men in
times.
Black.
Yeah, the next two, the second one's okay. The third one doesn't need to exist, and so on and so forth. Mystery Men from the 90s, again, just a hilarious. If you want some of like the top comedians and other people of the 90s, go watch that movie. Janine Garofalo, Ben Stiller. I mean, William H. Macy. I mean, he's not known for being a comedian, but he's fucking hilarious. What's his name? From The Simpsons, the voice.
Oh, Hank Azaria.
Hank Azaria, thank you. Just like there's tons of these. Pee Wee Herman is in it. Like everybody, it's a bunch of classics and just having
This is just a random tidbit. I've been replaying Far Cry 5, and I used to play with a friend of mine and you can one of the melee weapons you can have is a shovel, and he would just go around whacking people in the face with a shovel and going, "You can take this job and shovel it." I was
classic.
like, "Oh my gosh."
Classic.
Uh,
Yeah. So other than that, Dan, George, are you still searching for your picture?
I was, but yes, what's up?
I was gonna say, do you want to lead us off with your actual couple ones you want to talk about?
Oh, I thought we were just gonna go down the list and
Okay, you want to go down the list? Dan, start us off. Top of the
I mean,
list.
all right. Well, there it is. My contractually obligated movie that I have to talk about. It's almost like it haunts me at this point, but no, it doesn't. If you type, I don't know if it'll work now, but if you come in GJC's chat on any normal time of the day and type !smirch, you will get a little image of me with a shield from 300.
I remember I took that picture.
Yeah, it's. I mean, Zack Snyder. I think it probably his best. I think. I don't know
Arguably.
what movie you could say is better by him. It was very extremely stylized. A lot of people thinks like, what? There were no fucking giant elephants or weird goat people, and like it's because it's based off the comic. It's because it's in the comic. The comic got a little took some liberties, whatever. It's as I've gotten older, maybe not as one of my most beloved, but back when I was 22, this was like my favorite movie, and I loved everything about it. I was 100% certain that oh wow, now I forgot his name, the
Gerard
actor.
Butler.
Gerard, I was 100% certain that Gerard Butler was like the next big action star after that movie, and that did not come to pass. I don't know why. I thought he was all right.
He's got some
You can
good stuff.
say what you want about the movie. I thought he was pretty great. Little
Rock and roll.
um, Sure. Yeah. That was underrated as well. You got Michael Fassbender as a bit player in this movie, who's soon to be a
Early
huge movie star.
Fassbender.
Yeah, early Fassbender. And I don't know how many more movies you could have seen earlier than this, and or at least recognized him in. It's a extremely stylized, over the top, lots of. I always say that you could pause at almost any moment in the movie, and it could be like a poster. Very, very artistically fun. As a movie, it's okay. That's fine.
It's a
It's good.
fun movie. I'll still
It's a good.
watch it. It
It's a
holds
good.
up.
It's a good movie. It's there's not a lot. It's a lot of. It's a good dick flick, as
Yes.
have come to call them.
Jesus.
It's one of the. I mean, there are chick flicks and there are dick flicks, and this is verbatim a dick flick. Lots of slow mo action. Great slow mo action. A lot of weird kind of moments here and there, but overall, a fun romp in the dark.
I will
And
parry your 300 Zack Snyder greatest movie with the Owls of Ga'Hoole Zack Snyder greatest movie.
really,
I think it's better.
you think Owls of Ga'Hoole, The Legend of the Guardians, is better than 300?
Is that what's the last part? Legends of the Guardians?
It's reversed. I'm pretty sure.
It was fun.
I'm signing off now. This has been
Stylistically,
fun.
he did cool shit in that movie.
Oh God. All right.
I'll give it second place.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
I don't know. We got I mean, me and George kind of wanted to talk about Wanted. I think that movie didn't
When was the
quite.
last time you watched that?
It's been a
Recently.
minute. I'm not gonna
It's on
lie.
Netflix right now.
Oh, like 2 weeks ago I watched it.
Mm.
Does
And
not hold up.
it oh, interesting.
It's just not good. It's
I
just not.
feel like that movie could have been good. I
The
don't know,
comic was great.
something happened there, and that first like 10-15 minutes of the movie, you're like, okay, here we go, like I'm on board. And the actual meat and potatoes of the movie just doesn't seem to land as
No.
much. It's too bad. I like the idea, as ludicrous as it is, of curving bullets. It's cool to see, and it's a cool concept. I wish there's
I
a
don't
little more
even.
behind it, like science or some sort of ability, but it's just no, we just can just do this. I'm like, okay.
There was the
Uh,
weird ability. They did say that it was like 1 in a million that could do it because like his anxiety attacks were actually his
right. I
ability
forgot
and
about that.
powers coming to fruition.
See,
It
there's
was
something there. I don't
it
know. It's
was
too
yeah,
bad.
but like that was like the lamest excuse ever.
Sure,
That's
it
like
was something.
that's like in The Mist when they were like trying to explain where all of these like creatures came from, and they're like, yeah, they did a thing in the mountain. Now there's creatures. Rift. Who cares? And I'm like, wait, whoa. Tell me that. Why not tell me more of that story instead of this
About that. I don't know.
this religious zealot trying to sacrifice children in the mist? Anyway, we'll have a whole Mist podcast. Dan and I
Oh
get
my
very triggered
God.
on this movie. Um, yeah,
You
I
more than
wish
me, which
Wanted
is
stuck
rare.
more with the comic. The comic had almost nothing to do with the movie whatsoever, and the comic was so much better. It was way more intense, much better written. Everything was more thought out, and there was detail, and it was very good. It was again, I think it was another Frank Miller. I think both of these movies are Frank Miller comic books. You should read Frank Miller.
George Wanted.
Um, it's a Chicago movie. I enjoyed that.
There you go.
That's true. Although, where's that castle? They're in like a castle for half the movie.
Supposed to be
maybe
on
I'm
one of
not-
the islands in the river. There's a few. We have a few like random islands in the middle of the river. I think
It's like
one of
Goose
them has a
Island.
brewing company on it right now. Anyways, but yeah,
Mark
it's a Chicago
Millar.
movie. I like it. Angelina Jolie's in it. She's kind of hot in it. Morgan Freeman's in it.
Sure.
He does. It's always great
Yeah.
to see Morgan Freeman. You know,
Yeah,
as the
it's a
bad guy
good
too,
cast.
which is kind of funny.
I felt
Some
like
cool
the movie should have been
concepts.
better.
I like some of the cool concepts in it. You know, the rats, things like that.
Yeah.
What's his face is in
That
it.
guy was also in
Chris-
300.
Chris, what's his face? Chris Pine's in it.
Right.
Oh no, Chris
Get
Pratt's in
thrown in
it. Not Pine. chris Pratt.
Pratt.
Chris Pratt's in
whatever,
it.
one of the
You know,
Chris's.
good old Star Lord himself. Who?
It's funny. I was watching it, and I saw his name is Mark Warren, and he's in two things where I watched. Two things of note that I can talk about. One, he was in one of my favorite episodes of Band of Brothers, episode like 6 or 7 best known, no, like 5 or 6, where he plays one of the guys who like goes blind or whatever. It's a super sad moment. I'm not going to get into that one, but he was also in an episode of Doctor Who. So then I pop in, I turn on Wanted, and I'm like, what the fuck, it's the guy from Doctor Who who's being chased by aliens. I just thought that shit was kind of funny, how you can see all these actors that like you don't know were in things 15 years ago, and then you watch them in other shit, and then you're like, oh shit, there they were. Like,
How is this
fucking
guy
Chris
related
Pratt.
to
Like,
Wanted?
I had no idea
He's
who
in
he
Wanted?
was.
Who does he play in Wanted?
Let's keep
He's the
let's keep
repairman.
moving.
Who
He's the
plays who?
repairman. He plays the repairman, the guy who teaches him how to fight and take punches.
Oh,
tied to the chair
dude,
and he
he's in a
punches him in the
TV
face a
show.
bunch.
He's in a TV show called Hustle. It's a British TV show. He plays a con artist.
Nice.
Okay. George, what movie
Um,
you want to talk about next?
I mean,
We'll
are we
save
just gonna jump
we'll save
right
the
to
one
it?
for the last.
Pick
One
The
for
best
the
one
last.
for last.
I mean, right, we all know what the best one is.
Arguably.
I'll talk about, I don't know. Oh yeah, Mystery Men. Mystery Men is like a superhero movie that's like a satire slash like almost a goofy movie on its own. Ben Stiller's in it. Hank Azarias is in it. Who else is in it? Oh.
William H. Macy, Janine Garofalo.
What's his face from The Soup is in it? Yeah.
Is
Oh,
he?
McHale?
Greg.
Greg Kinnear.
Is that Greg Kinnear? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Greg Kinnear is
From The
the
Soup. So Greg
Greg-
Kinnear's in it
Well,
also.
Wait, Joel McHale from The Soup? Is that your...
No, not Joel McHale.
Oh.
The
you
Soup,
talking about-
like the Soup, like before Joel McHale, you know, before Aisha Taylor, before like
Oh.
back when it was like
Oh.
originally on.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
And
the
then
Soup that nobody watched.
yeah, the Soup that
I
no one
watched
watched
it.
back all those
I've-
years ago.
I've
But
been watching
anyways,
this movie.
it's really interesting because it's like it was before it was, you know, superhero movie before like the superhero movie big boom. You know, I think Spider-Man might have been out and there had been Supermans and Batmans, but it was not, you know, it was in the 90s or like early 2000s when it came out. I think it might have been in the 90s. I don't remember.
It was. I think it was in the 90s.
So
Late 90s, if anything.
but it's like a really clever, like goofy take on superheroes. Think like Kick-Ass, but not as
Kinda.
violent, you know,
Sure.
like over the top satire. So I always enjoyed it, which will bring me to my second one, Kick-Ass.
There it is.
Kick-Ass, like
Another
satire
Mark
of
Millar.
like pretty much vigilante justice and the bad things that could go wrong with it, and like really over the top violent and crazy. Probably I would say held that quote unquote gratuitous, almost over the top violence in a superhero film's throne before The Boys showed up. It might have been
Yeah,
like the
that's
one that
close
was
there.
up there, you know, where
Was it
it's like,
that
holy-
violent? I don't remember it being that violent.
It was pretty violent. Not when he's fighting because he's a chump,
Right.
but when Hit Girl is her name,
Yeah.
Chloe Grace Moritz, when she's fighting, it's
Yeah, and it was of
super
course
violent.
very over the top because it has what's his face McLovin as like one of the superhero villains
Mhm.
or super villains, which is just great. I mean, what can I say? Kick ass, just funny. And then they made a second one, but then they're never gonna do a third one probably ever.
Yeah.
So
Well,
But-
so Go ahead.
No, I'm done.
I've said the name Mark Millar like 4 times. He's the writer of a bunch of these comics that we've written, and actually Netflix. Mark Millar made a company like Millar Products or Millar Studios or whatever, and Netflix bought it so that they could make all these movies and TV shows and stuff like that. And the last one they made was Jupiter's Legacy, which I liked as a comic book,
Oh
but it was
yeah,
god awful
terrible show.
television show.
Josh Duhamel's
God
in it.
awful.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so it's like Netflix went all in on Mark Millar after they saw this. It was a pretty successful movie, Hitman or Kick-Ass. Like it did well, and people enjoyed it for the time. But like they went all in on Mark Millar, and I do not feel like that's paying off for them real well because a lot of his stuff that's been turned into movies has been, you know. Mediocre at best. I think, if you compare Wanted and Kick-Ass, I think Kick-Ass is, in my opinion, I think it's a little bit stronger of a movie, and we're mincing words here at that point, but it's
this list, except for one that we're going to talk about, is mostly mediocre at best.
I would
if I'm being honest.
disagree. I think there's a handful on here that are good movies, and I mean that like they're
Slice,
good movies.
Then
They're well
why
made.
don't you
good
give us
stuff.
a good movie that you have on your list? That's a good segue. Go ahead. Give us one.
I would say on here, strongest candidate for this argument. That's a tough one. I'd probably say 30 Days of Night is a good movie. Like I think it's a well done. There's some good acting. It's one of the few movies where I'll say, man, did I enjoy Josh Hartnett. Which is hard to say sometimes. Sometimes he's great.
Lucky Number 11.
I enjoyed that movie. That was a fun one.
I don't know that many movies then, so.
30 Days of Night is a movie that takes place in Alaska where there is aptly named 30 Days of Night, and there is a like vampire invasion. And the comic is like
movie.
This ridiculously thick one. And you've got this insane performance by Ben Foster, who is like one of the people who wants to be turned into a vampire, and he gives a great performance for this like crazed possessed guy with like these rotting teeth.
Terrible.
He's fantastic in it. I thought he was great.
Tim,
this is your example of a good.
This is the one you're picking for the best movie on this list. Like for it's a good movie.
That or
dude. 30 Days of Night is sitting at a solid 51% on the tomato meter with an audience score of 56.
I don't care what Rotten Tomatoes says. Because it's super skewed in one way or the other. I never go off of Rotten Tomatoes. It's a consensus
of critics and audiences.
Yeah, but like the critics are insanely harsh on all of these things, and like we will both have had moments where we disagree with Rotten Tomatoes 100%. And this is a case. I think this is, if you rewatch this movie, I think it holds up for a well told story, really interesting cinematography. It's good. Either that or Sin City, as far as like a stylistic
Sin City,
type
I
movie.
Sin City, I would have agreed with more.
Yeah,
I guess it's better acting. I mean, again, Josh Hartnett is in this movie.
It's solid. It's a solid movie.
It is a solid movie.
It also it is probably one of the very, if not the only, certified fresh on here. It also spawned like a slew of copycat movies that tried to like copy this kind of style, which I unfortunately feel there was just at least one that I think watered down kind of the legacy of this movie, which is too bad because this was an interesting foray into cinema, and I really appreciated what they were trying to do there, and I wish that people took note and paid an homage instead of straight up tried to copy. And
as far as like, I guess Sin City is the strongest case for. You are correct, Sin City. It looks exactly like the comic books. Like Frank Miller was the writer, and I think he was the artist as well on it. It was at the time it was fantastic. I still do watch it. It is long and a little disjointed at moments, but I mean, again, you've got Bruce Willis in like a role that I think was probably one of his best ones since like Die Hard, and he cared. You can kind of tell that he kind of enjoyed making the movie a little more than half of the other stuff that he made. And Mickey Rourke in
Right.
arguably one of his best performances,
Sure.
I
where
want my bullet.
he's basically just Mickey
want my
Rourke, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
not even wearing makeup, you know what I mean? You know, it's just what
Yeah.
he looks like now.
No, he's good.
But it's interesting because it's the only one on this list that was directed by the creator of the comic, co-directed by the creator of the comic. It was by Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller, who wrote it, and he co-directed the movie, which I was like, oh, you've got a lot of these people that are like very heavy-handed in some of the making of the movies and that kind of stuff, but like he made the movie with Robert Rodriguez. And Rodriguez was the best choice to make it, so you can't go wrong there. Yeah.
I'll take the reins for a sec. Not that I want to talk about it too much, but you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna skip that, and we're gonna talk about one that I'm sure we all liked, and it was Kingsman.
Yeah.
Kingsman was fun, dude.
I enjoyed that movie.
Fucking
Me
Eggsy,
too.
dude. I love that. I got a soft spot for that kid in my heart, dude. I just love him. Just rooting for that kid.
Seriously, the actor as well.
Yeah. Don't even tell me. He's gonna be the new Wolverine, dude.
Wow,
I kind of hope not.
it's hard. Who can you really say would be a good Wolverine that doesn't have
Anthony Starr.
We got to get someone younger. We got to get someone younger to start it off. And I think
he can do it all, like Hugh Jackman.
That's a hard thing to do.
He can sing, he can dance, he can act.
I'll give you guys one guess who wrote this comic book.
Kingsman, the guy we've been talking about.
Mark Millar.
There you go. That's the one. I'll remember his name someday. I like this is probably I'm a sucker for stylized action. And I know that that's kind of a mixed bag on a lot of people. A lot of people like kind of like the pure, like unaltered kind of action sequences. I don't know why, because we're watching a movie and it's there for the visuals, not for the kind of integrity of martial arts. And this movie is an extreme example of stylized action and hand-to-hand combat. But wow, is it intense? Probably to this day, in terms of action fighting sequences, the scene with him in the church, the music choice, top tier, intense, gripping the arms of your seat the entire time. It's kind of amplified by the fact that the good guys don't kill, and he is murdering people in this. Granted, he's like being mind controlled or whatever, or like forced to violence, but it is a really intense, well, like crafted scene on everyone's fronts, and I sometimes will just watch that scene, even though it kind of takes away from when you rewatch it. But yeah, a really fun movie. The sequel wasn't sequel was okay. It was okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it was quite what I wanted, especially in the sequels when you think about the fact that after they had lost everything in the first movie, they lose everything again. And I was kind of confused as to why they did that. I thought there would be a nice little fun setup with him and working with what's her name who made it through in the first movie. I don't know why they did that.
No. With the girl who was the actual Kingsman candidate in the first movie. She was the one that got accepted. Which I wish she was in this.
Yeah, that would have it would have provided an interesting dynamic, and I don't know why they didn't, which is too bad. So now she's gone, and I don't know who the hell knows. Apparently, they bring people back from the dead in these movies, so maybe we'll see her back in the third one.
The third one,
she died in the second one.
The third
one was a prequel.
Okay, the third one was not a third. It was not a third. It was a Kingsman prequel, and it was not good, which is too bad. I thought if anyone could help save this movie, it'd be Mr.
I will say Ralph Fiennes was fine.
Yeah, it was not. I wouldn't say it was that much worse.
It was not a Kingsman movie. That was the problem.
I would say it's a lot worse than the second one because
it's like a lot worse.
The story was disjointed. In the first half of getting to know him and the history of his family.
I spit on it. Like if it was on the street, I'd spit on it. That's how much it's not. How dare you call yourself a Kingsman?
I like seeing where the fights lined up and all the real life history. I thought that was fascinating, but yeah, not anywhere up to par in the first one. It makes me worried if they do make a third one. I don't know how good it's gonna be.
Should be a sequel. It shouldn't be.
And they're all what's his name? He did I think he did first X-Men First Class.
Oh, right. Yeah, he's good at action for sure.
Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
X-Men First Class was great.
yeah,
Um,
it was great. So probably maybe my favorite X-Men movie. I don't know.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would
it's
arguably
a tough call. That or X2.
X2. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're right there for different
yeah,
reasons though.
yeah. Yep.
Um, okay, we've got time for a couple more, but not many. I want to mention one real quick. It's the original 1990 91 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Mm.
Oh,
Um,
probably
this
the best one.
movie, yeah, well, hands down. I like the second one.
I did
I'm
enjoy
gonna
the
say
second one,
that.
but it
I
was
like
very
the second
different.
one. I think I like the second one more than the first one, but the
Ooh.
first one is special spot in my heart because it was the first movie as a human being that I ever sat in a movie theater to go see.
Ooh.
Maybe my parents took me to see one when I was like 2 or 3. That doesn't really count because you know I was 6 when this one came out. I remember the physical moment. I was in Florida on vacation, and we went to the theater the day after the premiere, and they still had like the promotional stuff up, but the Turtles had been there the day before, and I didn't get to see them, so I was really sad about that. But you walked in, and there was like the little green feet on the carpet, so like you follow the footprints into the movie theater, and that's where you're going. And I just sat down. I remember just like loving this cartoon growing up. I hadn't read the comics at that point because I wasn't into comics until a couple years after that. But just like seeing these things come to life, it was my first taste of what a lot of people are getting today with like Iron Man and the Avengers and Spider-Man, is seeing these things they grew up with on the big screen. So the Turtles for me, which I've worn their shirt many, many times on this in this podcast, that holds a very special spot on this list for me as far as nostalgia. And I think it looks great. There's something to be said about practical effects
Yeah.
that we don't get enough of anymore. And there used to be one name, really, in this movie industry for larger than life movies that used practical effects, and it was Steven Spielberg. At one point, he didn't do this one, but like he with like Jurassic Park and this movie, like you can see the two movies hold up because of the way they look. The CGI isn't going to age poorly because there isn't any. It was this giant animatronic figure of the turtles, and they were flipping and they were fighting, and like to be able to do that, the sheer athleticism and control you have to have of your body to do this in this gigantic suit provided by the Jim Henson studio was like, that's just impressive. Plus, it was a fun adaptation and retelling of the story. So if you get a chance, go watch the original Ninja Turtles trilogy 1, 2, and 3. I don't care how ridiculous the third one is; it's fun to watch.
Yeah.
Um,
I will say this:
great.
the first one is really good because it's like it had the darker tone that I like really enjoyed.
So much
Obviously,
darker.
they had. I think they probably got a lot of criticism from it from like parents who watched it and thought it was a little too dark. So you could see the tonal shift that they have from like the first one to the second one. Second one, like the palette's different. It's a brighter show. It doesn't show as a dark, gritty New York as much as the first one. Like the teen character was like an upbeat, flashy looking like pizza delivery boy as opposed to this like wayward wannabe gangster. Like and the first one was what's his face's son. Who was like a bad kid who had gone astray and fallen in with the foot. Like, yeah, Danny was like a darker character, right? They completely removed Casey Jones in the second one. Doesn't even show up, I don't think. So, like,
that sounds about right.
Who was like considered, was kind of a darker character too.
And then comes back for the third one.
He does come back for the third one, but much less,
Yeah, not really
scary and dark and moody than he was in the first one, where he's just like,
the
you're
third
like, what
one's
the hell?
about time travel.
So. Yeah, the third one's great too. I enjoyed all of them. Don't get me wrong, but I understand the tonal shift. But what makes the first one so special was the fact that it was like really dark and gritty, and like it showed New York in a kind of a seedy underbelly kind of feel, like.
And it came on the heels of '89 Batman, which was like very much the tone and like very much set the field for it, and it was. So you got back to back two movies that still hold up to this day as in their category some of the best of their versions.
Okay.
Obviously, there haven't been many good Turtles movies after that.
Anything else?
March
before we
nah.
before
I
we
have
get to our
one.
last one?
I'm going to mention one.
We got it.
And then
We
we'll talk
are.
about. Then we'll
we
do
are.
it. Just
we gotta
really
get
quick.
going.
The Crow. Go watch The Crow. It is worth the watch. Rest in peace, Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's kid, and it was just like weird neo noir, raised from the dead superpowers. The Crow, you can see through him. It's cool. It's a cool movie. Ernie Hudson, Brandon Lee, definitely worth the watch. But our number one, I'll let you guys take it home. Who wants to bring it
This
in?
is the reason why I suggested that. I'll do my. Okay. I'll do one more honorable mention. Is if you get a chance to watch Into the Badlands on AMC, it's a really good show, and that was originally a comic as well. It's a martial arts stylized, very Asian martial arts. But anyways, the one reason why I thought of this topic was because of this movie. I came up with the idea for this podcast. I'll take credit for that. But the one movie that I had in mind that I really enjoyed was Scott Pilgrim, which is like we've been talking about, especially since Miss Marvel showed up. But Scott Pilgrim is one of those movies that like it grabs you by the freaking like neck the minute the movie starts. Like
the 2-bit intro with the universal
with just like
you're like,
with
okay,
the music.
here we go.
Chills.
Yeah, and then
chills
as soon as that first song hits and that intro with the credits like goes off, you're just like, holy fucking shit. And I think for some reason, like, I don't think I watched it in IMAX. I might have just watched it in a regular theater, but maybe because the volume was like extra loud, it just seems like the music freaking hits you like a sucker punch.
Aren't we all together? I
think I've seen it several times. I saw it 3 times in the theaters.
I don't know if we were all together. We may have just met you like that year. It came out in 2010, so we would have like just met.
That
like,
was the year Blockbuster closed, so we knew each other for a year at that point.
Oh yeah, it was 2009. Yeah, then we probably did all go see it together.
There's a chance we did, but I remember seeing it, and like it so much of it is just so perfect in the sense that it was like it was almost like a testament to like growing up in the age that we did in the 90s as a kid. Like there's so many great 90s video game references and comic book references in it, and what's great is it also has like several famous a lot of famous people are in it, actually. Like Anna Kendrick's in it. Like who else?
This was one of Aubrey Plaza's first thing.
Like, Aubrey Plaza, who's now like huge.
You got Michael Cera, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Kieran Culkin.
You have
Anna
real
Kendrick,
superheroes in it. What's his face from DC's Legends of Tomorrow?
Chris
and
Evans,
also played
dude.
super. Yeah, Chris Evans is in it. What's his face from The Expanse is in it. He plays one of the police officers, the vegan PD. Oh, what is his name?
Captain Brie Larson's in this movie.
Brie Larson. This is one of the Brie Larson's first movies. So many superhero movie people are actually in this movie. Yeah.
What was it? It was wasn't it he's the Punisher.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who was like probably like one of the most amazing choices to pick to play this character. She's in it, and she's like she was already really well known in it already.
Did you guys did either of you read it?
I don't think I have read. I think it's like an trilogy, right? It's like I think I've read the first book.
There's like 10 of them.
Yeah, but they're all in like one movie. They put it all in one movie.
Yeah,
I don't think
a lot of people who read all the books, the comics and stuff like that, didn't quite enjoy it as much as I think we did, because we didn't read the source material and they like crammed like this much into this much. So but man, this movie was cool.
Lady
music,
Dudes.
the soundtrack, Lady Dudes,
and it actually spawned because it also has one of the best like video game smash 'em up video game adaptations ever. Also, it's a really fun.
That was a really good game.
You'll hear me mention in this podcast the best movies are the ones that are all genres, and this movie is like all the genres like put together. Save for maybe drama. It's like it's every genre you could want, and it's the best of them. And I felt like God watching that opening scene where they're practicing playing the song. I felt like I got mad goosebumps, and I felt like I was witnessing a history. Like I was like, this is not just some movie, which makes me sad at how bad it did at the box office. But
it took you on a trip.
Yeah,
Thomas Jane.
Thomas
Sorry.
Jane is what I
and
was gonna say. Yeah, Thomas Jane.
they really kind of, a lot of things draw from this now. Like it made it okay to like make references about nerdy stuff, and like this is kind of before like the nerd revolution of sorts, and there was all these like references to video games in there, and it was great and it was funny. Man, was this movie funny!
I feel like
I
the
quote it
first,
all the time. Like I'll be like, "Pirates are in this year." Like, are you a
like
pirate?
it's got the style
Like it's just so good.
of like the first 2 or 3 episodes of Miss Marvel. Like when if you watch Miss Marvel, it's got that like that drawing overlay, that cartoonish kind of overlay, and they do that a lot. That type of stuff where it's got like the pow and the zap, like the old school like Adam West Batman moments in this movie. So it's a lot of these moments that were done in Scott Pilgrim that you're seeing even today in other Marvel and other things. I can't think of a ton of them, but I know that there's others that have done stuff like that in their own right. Man, this was a fun movie. It
Alison
really
Pill's in it,
was.
and she's in Star Trek now.
Yeah, it was just a good time from start to finish. I mean, it was during the height of like Michael Cera, so like right when like he was coming off of
Super bad.
he was coming off of Arrested Development, Super Bad, and then into this, and then he did a few other things that were pretty good, and then he kind of just went away, which is fine. I don't think anybody's crying. But he was good at what he was doing, and this was designed for Michael Cera in there. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead was fantastic in this. I love her in a lot of stuff. Maybe not so much as Huntress. I think she could, she's fine, but I think the writing was bad there. As was most of it. But it was just good times. Any movie on this list where we can say that we all were in a theater together to go see is probably going to be high up on our list of things.
Fun. Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I think that's it. So, the end of this, the moral of the story is go watch Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme, which was based off of a
I thought you were gonna
comic
tell
book.
us to watch the 30 Nights again.
No. Go watch that. Go watch any of the
Time
movies on this list, and you'll probably have a good time. One way or another.
You're gonna have to provide people with
something...
this list.
Oh man, I don't want to do that.
So difficult.
Yeah.
Life hard.
Weird Science. There's a bunch of random ones. We can do a whole nother one, but we're not gonna. So, go Google a bunch of movies that are not DC and Marvel comic book movies, and you will find something that you like. Whether or not they're good or not, you will like them. And I do not shame you for enjoying things. Enjoy the things you like. Watch the movies. Have fun. Live your life. Play your games. Read your comics. Read your books. And if you find joy in them, fucking hold on to them.
And it's okay
keep watching
if
them.
if something needs to be good for you to enjoy it. That's okay too.
Yeah. Or other ways too. Go watch Daredevil. I mean, come on. Those movies were terrible, but they're fun for some people. Anything else? Are we gonna play tonight? Are you guys all? Is everyone gonna be able to enjoy the stylings of GJC327's merchandise, Sir Slice 13, and my amazing wife, Triple Big Nut, on, which is just fun to say, on playing Stardew Valley. I didn't think that would be such a moment, but it really was. We'll be playing Stardew Valley right here on George's Twitch channel, so you can watch us. You can give us advice. Some of us will have the chat open, so we will definitely try and interact with you. Dan, where can they find you? What socials are you active on? George, what socials are you active on? Give it to him.
This is my channel. GJC327 everywhere.
Everywhere. Check out his YouTube. He's got a lot of cool tutorial stuff. He's got a lot of great old marbles videos. Go check out his YouTube channel, also GJC327. If you haven't liked and followed, give it a like and a follow. If you haven't followed The Modern Nerd on YouTube, just The Modern Nerd. All of it is up here. Follow it. Give it a like and a follow. We really appreciate every like, comment, and everything. Other than that, we have been The Modern Nerd, and thank you for watching.